What's up, Saltstrong Nation? Joe Simons like diamonds here, my boy Capt Peter Deeks. We're doing a little cut bait fishing for redfish, trying to find the Redfish Highway, and Deeks already hooked up. We just pulled up to this spot here. What, a couple feet of water, all of a sudden line is going out. Yeah. Deeks is like, all right, Joe, I'm getting in the water, which I've seen him do a few times before in the past.
Slide by you real quick.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully, so I feel kind of bad. We were focused on filming and I wasn't paying attention, and we got the third rod out and he swam right up in this bush here. They're working this, we call it the Redfish Highway, but they're working this shoreline here, swimming back and forth. And I don't like breaking these fish off, so what I did is I lightened up my drag a little bit, and I'm gonna hop in the water and untangle them. That way we don't leave him out here with a bunch of line and hanging out of his mouth.
You still feel him?
I don't, but I've got some pretty light drag. I think he's still hanging on there.
Let's see, so we're getting up and in the shallows.
I'm gonna take my mic off here real quick.
Oh boy.
Joe.
Oh boy, hold on, I'm just putting these other ones. So if you guys are just tuning in here, we're fishing the Redfish Highway, which we'll explain what that is in a second, for cut bait.
Actually, can you clip this up high and I'll just hop in with it?
Sure can.
That way I can
just
keep
clip it
talking.
to his remote right here. Yeah.
Our camera guy Cole's like, oh boy, I'm about to see my $700
Oh boy. Hey, it was nice
lavalier
knowing
mic
you
go in
guys.
the water. So if you guys are listening, Deeks is now jumping in the water.
So what you do is you lighten your drag a bunch, because he's not going to break it unless you break it.
Go underneath. Oh boy. Oh my gosh. If you guys are listening, you have to come watch this. Deeks. I love this. This is what a good captain will do. Don't bend too far over and let that mic get in the water. So he's going underneath the roots.
He's around a rock.
He's around a rock?
That was a rock.
Oh my goodness. This is epic. I've seen Deeks do this on a number of occasions. Do anything to get that beautiful redfish.
I mean, we're getting like out of control right now.
Cole, the camera guy, you're loving this, aren't you? Like, finally. Deeks is taking some abuse after all the stuff he dishes at us all day long.
Ah, he got me. Now I got to get through the woods.
All right, well, while we're doing this podcast, I've got to film some of this for Instagram. This is too good not to get our boy Deeks just earning it today. Absolutely earning it. So while he's doing that, we're going to talk about the Redfish Highway, and essentially all that means is that redfish in general. You got him, Deeks?
Yeah.
Oh, baby.
I think, oh no, he's back on something.
Oh, he's stuck on something else? Hope it's a big red at least, not some little 19-incher. But they usually are going along the same highway, if you will. Once you find the depth, it's all about finding that depth. They're literally going up and down that same contour that, oh, there he is. Little boil out there. So he's on the other side of you now.
I got it out.
There, oh, it's not even that big of a redfish. That is awesome, dude. Well earned. Well earned.
Ooh.
And this is all
now
just,
he's in the troll
now
motor.
he's in the troll motor.
Yeah.
Just when you think your day can't get any.
This guy is a battler. Did you see him?
Yeah. Yeah, he thinks he's a big bull red.
He is a stud.
That is hilarious.
But how cool is that?
And the sad part too, I don't know, Cole, I guess we'll do it in a second, but when we look out here and you see just what's been happening with the water quality issues, I mean, it is, oh, look at that. It's a good looking red though.
He's beautiful.
Beautiful.
So this is like a perfect size. We're gonna let him back in, so I didn't want to interrupt you there, sorry, but this is a perfect size for fishing along these highways. You're gonna get them anywhere from like 18 to, I mean, up to 45 inches. And that circle hook's got them perfect. There we go. Oversized circle hook, keeps them from swallowing it. It's a beautiful red. Made me get in the water, didn't he?
Oh, look at that tail lit up. That's great.
So he's about 24 inches. Cute little fish. But yeah, I'll let Joe talk a little bit more about the Redfish Highway, or if you got any questions. But that's a good example right there of fishing the highway.
Yeah. But so check out over here real quick, Cole. You can see a lot of you have been asking questions about water quality, and hopefully you can see it. And even on the left-hand side, it's pretty vivid over there. I mean, it's nuts. This is just basically what, Peter's one big kind of algae bloom in layman's terms.
We've got an algae bloom happening right now in this part of the Indian River.
It is just horrible. So it's just been kind of tough fishing. A lot of people have been posting fishing reports I've seen in the community. It has been tougher. And so one of the best ways, probably one of the easiest ways to go out there, really anytime. You're right now, summertime. I mean, we're sweating out here. It's what, 11:30. It's brutal hot. Is just to get cut mullet on a circle hook and find the Redfish Highway.
Yep, if you want to catch fish, find the Redfish Highway.
That's it. So how do you find the Redfish Highway? That's really the topic here of this podcast. Why did you pick this area? What is the Redfish Highway? How many decades of fishing did it take for you to discover it?
So when redfish move from area to area, they like to swim on what I like to call the highway, and that's usually along a shoreline. Whether it has mangroves or oysters or whatever that is, if you can find a gradual sloping shoreline where there's some kind of debris or something that they like. So right here we have, look, you've got some rocks, you've got some overhanging trees. Go ahead and pan that camera over there. And so when the redfish are swimming up and down this river, they're gonna swim right along the shoreline. They may stop on a dock, they might stop on a big tree branch, they may hang out in that area for a little while, but then they're gonna move on. So if you wanna catch redfish, especially if the water's dirty, any time of day, if you keep your baits, especially cut bait, which we're gonna show you here in a minute, right on the highway, the redfish are gonna find it. So when you fish a dock, you're gonna catch the couple of fish that are there, and then that's it. You're not gonna get a replenishing group of fish to show up on that spot while you fish it. But if you just want to sit back and wait for fish to come to you, you want to make sure that you're fishing a redfish highway. And it doesn't matter where redfish live, they love to follow shorelines. So this is great because there's a lot of habitat. You've got overhanging branches, you've got rocks that hold like little shrimp. We saw this big shrimp jumping out of the water. You've got lots of bait fish. It's just a lot of life. And so the redfish aren't going to stay here. They're going to swim up and down it for miles. And so you just throw out a couple of rods, let it sit there on the highway, let the fish come to you.
And talk about this highway being kind of a choke point and what they're looking for. One, they're looking for their own protection, right? I mean, Luke, wrote that book, Redfish Secrets. And I mean, there was a big part of what you just said earlier, maximize structure, but also just keep in mind what a redfish is thinking about every single day. Don't get eaten, especially like those size, right? Don't get eaten by a dolphin. And also they want to be in a place where they can eat other fish. So talk about little choke points and kind of other things to be looking for. Because that's really the toughest part, right? I mean, once you have cut bait, if you're in the honey hole, if you're in the highway, you're going to catch fish.
That's a good observation. So redfish they're trying to not get eaten by sharks and dolphins. So they've got to be near structure, or they need to be in an area where they can get shallower than a dolphin can get. So right here, you've got a gradual shoreline. The dolphin comes into him, he's going to get just too shallow where the dolphin can't get him. But now, to the little mullet and the shrimp and the minnows, he's a dolphin. So he's going to be trying to get up shallower. So the bait fish, oftentimes, that the redfish feed on are going to be like just too shallow for the redfish to get. So he's hoping that some of those bait fish kind of drift out and they can get those bait fish. So it's kind of like the whole ecosystem. So oftentimes you're not going to find a lot of the really big fish, but you can. But you're going to find a lot of those slot-sized fish, anywhere from like 18 to 35 inches. And we just pulled up to this spot. We threw a couple baits out and then instantly got that redfish. And I mean, it's fun. It's a good way to sit back. And you might wait an hour sometimes and not get anything, and then you might get 3 bites. But if you want to get out there and catch some fish, fishing this kind of an environment, as long as there's bait, you've got a gradual sloping shoreline and you have structure, you can throw your baits up there, and you want to make sure that your baits stay in the highway. So when you're looking up and down the shoreline, there's a section. Those fish aren't going to be any further out than like 10 feet from the shore. And if your baits drift out that far, then you're not going to catch them. So that's why I like cut bait. You can throw it up there and it's going to stay. If you use a live bait, it's going to drift out. And if you use a lure, unless you can see the fish, like today it's really dirty, unless you can see the fish, you'd have to throw 10,000 times before you'd happen chance to get your bait in front of the fish.
And for all of you who love catching fish with artificial lures, tell me what happened earlier, Peter. So why we were in the spot right prior to this, and we were on the highway, but the fish just weren't there yet. And so we saw a couple little blow-ups on some shrimp a little bit farther out, like there's a little flat behind us. So why we're letting the bait soak.
Why are you smirking so much?
Oh, because I just loved it. Because Peter caught nothing on live cut bait. and I caught trout on Slam Shady. So the point is, you can always have someone off the back, which is always obviously avoiding where he was fishing, and still catching some trout off the flats using an artificial lure. But we pulled it to this spot, and I mean, that happened in minutes. I mean, all of a sudden, line was zzz, pretty awesome. Let's talk about the rig. Do we want to go show?
Let me bring it up here.
Okay.
It a lot easier.
Oh, that's real nice. Just like a nice chef. I'm bringing it right out to you. So we'll talk about what size hook you're using, what type of weight to make sure it stays on and in the highway, and in the best baits. Because earlier we talked about crab as well. This was just some cut mullet.
Let me fix this mic real quick. Oh, I look like a goofball. I look like a goofball.
I don't know, but hey, this is live. So that's the only bad news, Cole, is we kind of blew the spot out. I didn't know Deeks was going to get in, but I'm glad you did, because that was a...
Well, I hate breaking them off, and that's a super good point. Like, a lot of people, they'll pull back, they just give and take a little bit, and if he gets tangled up, like, get in. Like, you don't want to break that fish off and leave him with 3 feet of line.
Yep.
But if you lighten up your drag enough, you can untangle those fish.
Just make sure you got a good pair of shoes on, or wading boots, because I can only imagine it's pretty gnarly down there. But that was cool. That was cool to see you do that live, uncut, this whole podcast. That's what people say you guys love about it. It's not like a traditional fishing show. We're out here showing the real deal, and Captain's got to jump in the water sometimes, and sometimes you got to get a little bit messy.
Were you laughing like Muttley?
Oh,
I like you stepped on a rock. All right, let's show you the rig here, real simple. We got 2 rigged up. So I like to fish 3 rods when I'm doing this. Too many and you can't pay attention. You know, when we get bit and you're not looking. But 3 rods. Pan over here real quick, Cole.
The trident.
The rod holder. So I really like that. I can anchor off the back. You've got a much bigger platform up front to fish on, and I'll throw 3 rods out, and then somebody's in the hot seat sitting on the cooler, or you guys take turns, and you know, sit back, relax, eat a snack, and catch some redfish.
Mm-hmm. So what do we got here? You got your...
So here's the finished technique here, the whole rig.
So your pen setup, you got to give your shout out to your...
So this is a Penn Slammer 3. I've got a 30-pound braided line on here because I knew we were going to fish a little bit of structure today. If you're fishing a Redfish Highway on the open flats, which happens more often than not, then you can get away with really light tackle. I'm going down here to 30-pound fluorocarbon leader. Got about 4.5 feet. And then we just tied on a 5/0 Gamakatsu circle hook. A piece of cut bait, cut mullet. And now what makes this fishing so easy is one day when you're out on the boat, catch a bunch of big mullet, throw them in Ziploc bags, put them in your freezer. They work better than fresh a lot of times because they have a lot more stink to them, and it's super easy. So we didn't have to catch bait today. We were actually doing some other filming work, and we just had some frozen mullet in the boat and came over here and we caught some redfish, so it's super easy. So
there's a storm coming. I was like, Deeks, we got 30 minutes to catch a fish, a redfish. And he's like, let's just go hit the highway. I was like, what's the highway? And then that's how this whole thing came about. I was like, all right, we got to do a podcast on this. And you did. Cut up some bait that you already had in a little Ziploc, had the right amount of stench.
And that's it.
You had the right amount of stench. You got in. Now we're all pretty happy.
That's it. And I'll show you a cool little thing too to make life easier. So put your frozen mullet in a Ziploc bag. Super clean. I love these little cutting boards. You can buy them online. But
already coming up.
Ooh, they love them. But anyway, it keeps your boat really clean. Instead of cutting it on your cooler or on the side of your boat and there's all this juice, this saves the juice. It doesn't get it all over your boat. But anyway, this is about the size of the piece I like because you can catch big and small redfish.
For those of you listening and not watching, that's, I don't know, close to an inch, maybe 10?
About an inch. I like the middle core pieces. I do not like the heads and I don't like the tails. So about 1.5 inches from the tail, I throw that out. And once I get to the back fins here behind the head, I'll throw that out. It's really hard for a smaller redfish to chew because you want to catch those little 20 inchers as well as those 30 inchers. I like to cut off the fins and it makes it very streamlined. And I'll show you here how I hook it real quick. This way you can cast a lot more accurately. You can kind of skip it up against the shore, cast it farther.
So
heavy side's on this side, light side's on that side. You see that there? It's like a little donut. Hook it on the light side. Make sure you take the scales off. Just hook it through, real simple like that. But when it's like that, it's really streamlined. When you cast it, cast a mile, cast very accurately.
Cool. That's a great tip right there.
I mean, look how simple that is. And
All right, so this is a little bit unique situation because we just kind of blew the spot out when we had to, come up to the beach.
Yep.
But normally, when you find one, you're going to stick around in that area and keep the other two lines out, maybe catch a couple more. Or how often are you having to move once
If you catch, and when you're fishing a highway, if you catch one, there's going to be many more. But you might have to wait a couple hours sometimes. Sometimes you're going to catch them because you don't know. They're just sporadically migrating, moving up and down these shorelines. And so that's what's cool about fishing the shoreline. If I were to pull up to a big, like, overhanging mangrove, like one big one, and we caught one or two and didn't catch anything for 20 minutes, I'm gonna leave because we caught or spooked what was there. This spot here, we can back out, fire our baits right here, and in 20 minutes catch more redfish, because the redfish we're gonna catch here is probably 500 yards away right now, swimming up this bank.
Don't even know we're doing a podcast right now.
Don't know we're doing a podcast. And so it's just a good way, especially like if you've got, kids that are loud or whatever, or you got a bigger boat and you had to anchor, you don't have a trolling motor, like you can come in with a little bit of noise, spook out what's there, but you're gonna have more fish coming up.
So let's talk about boat positioning, because we kind of missed that part because we started the podcast with the fish on that was going underneath the mangroves.
Do you want me to do that?
Yeah, I guess that would be kind of cool. Just talk about how far out you are, because not everyone, even with somewhat of a heavy rig, can cast it out that well. How far back do you go, etc.?
I'll show you here real quick.
Look at that! Wow, this is first class, Cole. Isn't it a pleasure to fish with Deeks all the time? He's laughing.
Cole loves. So we've got Cole behind the camera. He's a real butthead sometimes, but he's the best in the business.
Best in the biz.
How come the best always are like the worst? Like they're like divas.
They are divas. What do you guys think? Does anyone know Cole? Who wants to see Cole? Cole's gonna. You do a selfie?
You can go to Cole's Instagram.
Show that big, beautiful mustache.
You go to Cole's Instagram at Cole Surfing. Is it Cole Surfing?
We're going to double his Instagram followers right now.
All the ladies, when they see that mustache, Meredith's going to be like, oh, no, you didn't.
Oh, boy.
Okay, so two things to pay attention to. Wind and current. You always want to fish wind to your back when you're doing this, and you want to fish and have the current taking your bait down the highway where you think the redfish are coming from. And a lot of times the first one you catch, you'll see the direction he's naturally swimming, and that'll give you a key as to the direction the rest of them are going to be coming. So today we've got wind and current blowing, going this way. So if I were to fish this shore, let's just say we are going to fish this shore. So I'm going to come at this shore at an angle. So I'm going to shut the boat down about 200 yards away, just because there might be redfish right here that I don't want to spook and I want to catch them quick. So we're going to come in kind of slow with the trolling motor, and we'll stop about, you want to make sure that you can cast all of your baits to the highway. So if you're not a great caster, get closer. But right now we're about 60 yards from where I think is going to be a good little spot.
And we're not that far, for those listening, we're not actually that far from the end of the mangrove line. It's a little bit further to the beach, to the actual shore.
Yeah.
But I mean, anyone should be able to make that cast.
We're 30 yards to the highway from here, and then 50 up off the front. And we'll just, here, I'll give you a bait and just stagger them out there.
What metric system you're using? There's no way that's 30 yards. What do you think, Cole?
What is that? 30 yards on
40
that.
feet.
Yeah, I think it's more like 40 feet. 50 feet.
Cool bull Hans. Knows what's up.
I think it's close. Ooh, I see something down there. Oh, no way Deeks can do it again after just. So that would be really cool if we could actually.
Joe, cast that one up there. Show them how it's done.
Where do you want me to go, near the logs?
Yeah,
Too late.
That's good.
Look at that, right in between. You get that on film, Cole? I want to make sure Luke saw that. I took Luke's casting course.
Yeah, me too. Now it's important to, it's most important to make sure that you're in the highway. Casting near some structure can be beneficial and helpful, but just make sure you thread it in there. What you wouldn't want to do is, the fish are going to be swimming, you see these gaps? You've got like a mangrove and then a gap, and then a mangrove and then a gap. The fish are going to swim where these mangroves protrude out underneath those mangroves, and then they'll cut across at the gap. I can't cast my bait under those mangroves. So when I cast, don't cast at the end of the mangroves, because the fish aren't going to come out to your bait. They're just going to be patrolling along, and if that bait's in front of them, they're going to eat it. So I'm going to throw my bait in the gaps, just like Joe did. He threw it right in the gap of that tree. So when that fish swims along, you've got about a 10-foot swatch, the highway. They're going to patrol down. You just keep your baits in those highways.
Now, another little tip. Not everyone's going to agree with this, but sometimes the old trident, we'll just call him Terry, does the best job at setting the hook when you got circle hooks.
Terry is fantastic.
He's consistent is what Terry is.
He's good, isn't he?
Whereas people sometimes, including yours truly, they get all wonky and they get super excited and get a little gun happy, trigger happy, and try to set the hook when you shouldn't on a circle hook. Nice, smooth, but Terry just does a good job sitting in the rod holder.
That's why Terry came along.
Yeah, Trident Terry's
good.
amazing.
Now you can see there's another little gap up here under the tree. I'm just going to throw the second rod out. Let me show you real quick. If I am using 3 rods, I'll put on one rod, I'll do a couple of split shots because these baits will drag a little bit and it separates them. So
what do those weigh for those listening?
These are probably like 1/8 ounce.
Okay, that looks right.
They're pretty small. So we've probably got about a 1/4 ounce with both those together. You can go bigger. You don't want a big like 1 ounce weight because when it lands, it's just going to be like, poof, it's going to spook everything that may be already there. But you can. And so what I'm going to do is like the inside rod, you're going to do no weight, middle rod, weight, outside rod, no weight.
And how often are you using crabs or any other types of cut bait?
If you can get crab, it's a fantastic bait. But they're
Crab
not
over
that
mullet?
Probably better,
Okay.
But now crab doesn't freeze well. So if you put a blue crab in the freezer, it gets so mushy, all the pinfish and everything will suck it clean instantly. Fresh crab lasts a little bit longer, but it still gets picked clean. We just don't have a lot of pinfish here, so it works pretty good. But I love cut bait, cut mullet.
Yeah, your pinfish and puffers not as prevalent as in Tampa and St. Pete
West
right
Coast
now.
has way more.
It's crazy. Your slam shadies last a little bit longer. You guys got a lot of catfish though. Saw a lot of catfish earlier.
We love them cats.
Mm-hmm.
Those cats keep me in business, but
Yeah.
I think that's about it. We got 2 rods out. I'm suspecting within about 5 or 10 minutes you're going to catch another redfish. And you just want to jump on that rod quick and use a circle hook so you don't gut hook them. Yep. Super fun.
Because that was kind of maybe the final tip is to have someone, we did not have that last time, is to have, kind of a man or a woman on duty. Because, I mean, we were over there just talking. We literally just cast it out when you had the camera rolling yet. And all of a sudden, boom, that fish is up in structure. Trying to, obviously get away and break us off. So always have someone here. Let Trident Terry do its job. And then bring that fish in.
And if you have one that kicks your butt like that, Bill Dance taught me that. I mean, if you have a fish that just like hammers you through a bunch of dock pilings or structure, just lighten up on your drag and just finesse them. If that doesn't work, hop on in.
Luke calls it soft hands. Everyone's like, what does soft hands mean? It means just, because the opposite is hard fist, like you're barreling down on something.
Yeah.
If you watch Luke, he's got just super soft hands, keeps it super light. I mean, just enough tension to make sure it's not getting off. So that's it. We got some waves coming. We got a storm coming. We'll probably let these soak for another couple minutes and then we'll bolt ourselves. But we wanted to get this on film, at least just kind of show how it's done. We had essentially 30 minutes to try to catch a redfish, and it was cool, for me at least, to see this work in action.
Yeah.
Sometimes I doubt Peter Deeks. I'm like, man, you got to be using Slam Shady and Power Prod more often.
They do work.
The guy just keeps catching fish all day long. But no, I give you a hard time. You guys saw the 45-incher on the dot that Luke caught. That stuff's done on live bait. And that's what Peter Deeks, I mean, I know it's almost impossible to book you anymore. But man, I mean, if you guys ever get the privilege of even fishing with someone who's on Deeks' calendar, man.
He's such a nice
Yeah, you coming in for a hug? All right, we're gonna end it there. Man hug on 3. Now guys, we appreciate you. And obviously come join us in the Insider Club. Captain Peter Deeks is one of our fishing coaches there. He has done some fantastic courses. If you've listened this long here, I don't know how long it's been, probably close to 30 minutes. We're just gonna give him a little teaser. Talk about what you're working on right now with the underwater. We've already done underwater bait forensics, so not, for those of you who saw that, just a phenomenal course. Just give him a little bit of a teaser about what you've been doing now for, gosh, I mean, really a year and a half. You were getting footage with Cole.
Pieces.
Yeah.
So to be an effective fisherman, you really need to understand what's going on below the surface of the water. And so if you're fishing how I fish, I mean, you don't have to, but I envision that there's no water there, and in my mind, in my imagination, I pretend what's going on. But if you have an accurate understanding of that, then it can be like real life. Like you can picture these redfish on the highway. And so what we did is we've spent a lot of time underwater, primarily Cole. He's done a fantastic job, but it's capturing the behavior of game fish, snook, redfish, trout, sheep's head, mangrove snapper, grouper. and how they behave underwater and how they respond to your bait. So it's going to teach, it allows you to understand what these fish are doing. So when you're fishing your spots, you know what's going on, and how long do you wait to set the hook, right? Like how fast does a snook eat your bait?
Yep.
Do you nose hook? Do you tail hook your baits? What are these fish doing? Do they stay up against the shore? There's so much you can learn from that. So that's what we've been trying to capture, and it's taken a long time because it's really hard to capture fish that aren't bothered by you with the camera. So we've used like...
Even with Cole, it's got web feet. Cole's got literally legit web feet.
He has web feet.
You think he'd kind of fit in with the
He would,
fish.
but I mean, we've tied him to like dock pilings, and then we've put GoPros down there. We've had the fish cams, like we've had so many different types of cameras and
as
stuff.
a seal. We had all kinds of stuff.
But if you guys have ever seen some of that John Skinner stuff, where he's doing some of that, I mean, he's, you know, in a little bit deeper water with one of those cameras, it's phenomenal what you can learn from seeing how these fish are reacting and how they're striking. Yeah, I thought I saw the line get taught there. But it's phenomenal, and that was only for fluke, and that's, you know, kind of what puts John Skinner on the map.
Right.
And so we're trying to take a lot of that same stuff for our inshore species, like you said, redfish and speckled trout and snook and little grouper and mangrove snapper, maybe even some sea bass, who knows, see what happens.
Right.
But I think it's just, it's awesome. So I'm kind of pitching this, if you want to let you know what we're working on too. If you're an insider member, one of our VIP members, you'll obviously get that course for free. It'll be there in your account, and I've got a lot of cool stuff we're working on with Capt Peter Deeks, and some really new cool products we're working on, stuff that we haven't even talked about yet, so I can't spill the beans just yet, but I did want to talk about the course since you're here today.
Wow.
That's going to be really awesome. So
It'll be really cool.
yeah, guys, we appreciate you. Once again, come join us in the Insider Club. Get to see this guy on camera all the time, all the tips and taxes. This is the free stuff. This is the stuff we just like, we saved the very best stuff for the Insider Club.
Yeah.
It just hit 25,000 members, did I tell you that?
That's super cool.
25K.
It's grown
That's
fast.
so cool, man.
Everybody loves it. Everybody pulls me
So
over
cool.
and they're just like, man, I love it. I like when people pull me over on the boat or on the water or in the car and they're like, I just watched it before going fishing to get me pumped to go fishing.
Yeah.
It's like,
Hey, we met a guy, we were doing an anchor video earlier.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, I love you guys. See ya. Even the crab guy. Commercial crab fishermen, they like
It's
Peter
like
Deeks.
Salt Strong.
Yeah, we like you guys.
But a couple things to remember from this little thing that we just did here. Redfish Highway is just where you're going to fish because the fish are constantly moving, so you're getting replenished. You can sit back and wait for the fish to come. If you fish structure like a dock or a rock pile,
Getting a little tight.
it's got a redfish on. Joe, get him.
Oh, there it is.
There he is. So like, see, we were just sitting back here waiting, and Joe's got a nice red, and it's cool. There's not a really great spot more than others. They're all pretty good, and you can fish on the flats, you can fish on the mangroves. You don't have to be in any particular environment.
A little bit bigger, maybe an inch.
You muscled them out of there, didn't you?
Well, it was really just my cat-like reflexes. It was really my laser eye, right, Cole? Look over and I was like, that thing, it looks like it's moving. This
is just a great way to come out and catch some redfish if you don't catch that many.
That's 2 and probably 30 minutes.
And how did we pick this spot? We just rolled up here. I've honestly, in my whole life, I don't know if I've ever fished this before, honestly. We saw some mullet jump, pulled over, threw some baits up. The pal. Can I grab them for you? Oh, did you cast that one or did I throw that?
Oh, that was mine.
That was yours,
That
right
was
in there.
mine, yeah. What,
He gets some credit.
Yeah. Captain's normally like, I got to do everything. Yeah, you got to pull them out of the water.
Oh, man. We watch out for the other line. Oh, no.
I'm just going to keep that up.
We're just like a bunch of clowns today.
Yeah, well, that's why we do all this stuff live. You get to show the good, the bad, the ugly. Look at that. Hooked right there perfectly.
I hope I can shake him off. That way we don't have to show Joe's slightly larger little rib.
Oh, whammy. We'll take it. Cool, guys. We'll end it on that one. You can see that it's very effective, easy to do. Finding the Redfish Highway using a little bit of cut bait. We will see you guys on the next episode. We're going to release this and try to avoid that storm that's back there. All right, guys. Peace. We out.
Peace.